Hi everyone, my name is Ethan and today I'll be teaching you 5 extended techniques you might not have heard of before. Now, this video is for flutists, but there's always something to learn, so if you don't play the flute, stay tuned because you might learn something. So what are extended techniques? Well, they're just that, they're extending beyond the conventions of the classical flute. We've spent so much time practicing our tone and our vibrato and our lovely articulation, but there's sort of boundaries, you know? It's all about going beyond what is conventional, going beyond those boundaries, extending what you can do on the flute or on any instrument. So you've probably heard of things like flutter tonguing and multiphonics, but let's get into some other kinds of things today. So first of all, let's talk about the jet whistle. You might have heard of this one. This is a little bit more common, but I have met some people that haven't heard of it and some people that can't actually do it. And it's really simple. So really, you just want to cover all the keys. If you have low B, make sure you cover low B. And cover the entire lip plate with your mouth. And it takes a lot of air, so just punch your air through the flute. That kind of whistling sound is what you want to get. There's a lot of contemporary repertoire with that effect in it. Typically, they don't write the pitch for it, but if you want to mess around with it, you can experiment running up and down the keys. It's a really fun thing to play around with. Next, let's talk about pizzicato tonguing. This is one of my favorites because if you do it right, it almost sounds like a pizzicato on a string instrument. It's so cool. So just take a low F, and what you want to do is you want to force air through the flute without actually using your abdominal muscles in the conventional way that you would play the flute. So you're going to actually use your tongue to propel uncontrolled air across the lip plate. So it's going to sound something like this. And you might try putting your tongue just behind the lips, like that. There's a couple ways to do that. That's my favorite way to do it. So imagine, if you're still having trouble, imagine that you're spinning rice. You know, you're not actually using any of your abdominal muscles. You're not exhaling. You're only using your tongue and the muscles in your mouth to propel the air. You might also try placing your tongue on the roof of your mouth to do this effect. So more of a kind of sound. You'll notice that that color is a little bit more hollow. If you place your tongue further back, you can kind of get the same effect as when it's through the lips. So let's move on. So the next extended technique that we're going to talk about is multiphonics. And the reason that I want to talk about this one is because there's so many, a lot of people tend to have trouble with this extended technique. For starters, let's just take the most simple multiphonic that you would probably do on the flute, and you're going to finger a high D, shape your embouchure for the high D, but use air as if you're playing a middle C. Not like low C, but like on the staff C. So you might have heard 2 notes there. And this is a little bit difficult, but if you take what I said by using your embouchure and shaping it for the higher note and using the air for the lower note, and then aim in between the two. Imagine you're playing a note in between those 2 notes. And you want to get a sound that evenly has both notes in it. You don't want one sticking out over the other. And this takes a lot of practice, so have patience with yourself, but it can be a lot of fun once you get it. So for the next extended technique, we're going to talk about whistle tones. I also really like whistle tones because it's such a cool effect on the flute. So if you're just starting out and you've never done whistle tones before, let's just take a high C, like the highest C on the flute. So C7, I believe. In case you don't know how to play it, it's these 3 fingers, this one, and if you have this trigger, that's gonna help you. And don't push that down. And so for whistle tones, this can be pretty difficult as well. So you're going to imagine that you're playing a high C, but you don't want to use as much air as you normally would. Keep your air moving slow, and remember, you don't want to do that when you're actually playing the flute. Normally, people tell you faster air, more pressure. But remember, this is going outside the boundaries. So, play your high C, but just use slower air and less air. It's almost as if you're not even using air at all. So hopefully you could hear that, and I think high C is one of the easiest notes to do for whistle tones, and it takes a lot of practice. Something that might help if you're not getting it is aiming your air for the opposite edge of the lip plate, right in there. Maybe for the opposite edge of your riser. So try again. Once you master that, you can try some other notes too. You might notice that whistle tones actually have pitch. And that is true, whistle tones have pitch. They are the same pitch as the note you're playing. So a lot of contemporary composers will use this technique to, they usually will write pitches for the whistle tones. So you're going to want to master playing whistle tones on lots of different notes. All right, and for our final extended technique, we're going to talk about Aeolian sound. So there's a lot of different ways to talk about this. Some people don't use the word Aeolian sound, but it basically just means air sound. This is often pitched as well, although you won't necessarily be able to hear the pitch because it's not the conventional flute sound. So basically, it's going to sound something like this. This can be a really difficult sound to get out actually because you're so used to playing the flute in a normal way. But you're going to want to just forget all of the work you've done to get a beautiful tone on the flute, just for right now. So something that really helped me to get the Eolian sound is closing your jaw. So say shh, 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 and then kind of shape your lips into the almost flute embouchure, but not quite. Just enough to allow the air to flow freely across the lip plate. And it might help to aim your air sort of straight across or even more upwards if you're used to blowing sort of into it a little bit. Think aiming upward a little bit, and that might help you get this sound. So play around with that, and once you've got that, you can start to explore all sorts of variations with this sound. You have the cha. A lot of beatboxers or flute boxers will use that kind of sound when they're flute boxing. You also have the sound. That one's a nice like little rim shot kind of thing. So thank you everyone for watching this video. I hope you learned something and have fun exploring these techniques. It's a lot of fun. I'll see you guys sometime soon with another video.